What other business-related issues do you have in mind that you'd like to address in the next 6 months, next year?
Well, going back to the the privatization of economic development, I mean it's still an unknown. There's still some questions to be answered, some things to look at, but I think at some point we have to be together. The chamber, the privatization through the city, or however we end up doing that, and the local business community. We have to be on board to promote Mesquite. But ultimately,
well, there's been some people who have advocated having a master plan, if you will, that kind of brings all of these groups together, or forms some kind of more formal coordination effort with all of these different groups, the Chamber, the Mesquite Development Corporation, the new private economic development, so on and so forth. Are you advocating some kind of umbrella structure or plan or whatever?
We have to be together.
Okay.
However that's created, I'm not sure. But we have to work together. The thing that we have to understand, though, is if you go back to the challenges that we still have all the government, the programs that the city has always had. Those things still exist. They're here. It comes back to the private side of the economy, and that's what we have to focus on. We have to be able to, and we can't convince people. I mean, times are tough. They've got to be willing to come in and invest. Are we going to be able to do that? Our record so far in economic development isn't really good based on the way we've handled it through the city.
Right.
That's why I'm listening to the proposals. Some people are a little concerned of the amount of money, but if we're going to make a commitment, we've got to give it a little time. We've got to have the process go forward. These things don't happen overnight. I mean,
Right.
It's just like development. There's nothing that's come into the city that's and I don't want to, of magnitude as far as a big development or anything like that.
Right.
Even if those things came in today, we're still, a year and a half, 2 years before we see some of the fruits of that initial submittals.
Mm-hmm.
There's things that people are looking at, but with the way things are with the economy, they're just not willing to commit right now. And it gets back to your question with business license fees, the structures. We continue to lose business.
That's true.
And it hurts to see people, because there's no business. We don't have the bodies here. We don't have, and they have to leave, and it's unfortunate. And that is one of my big frustrations. How do we continue to keep the demand here and keep the revenue and the circle of that revenue to keep it here in Mesquite?
Okay, well then let's segue on into the next controversial subject, the proposed indoor sports / events complex. It's been almost 8 months since council approved sending out an RFP. We haven't seen one yet.
I was one of the two that didn't vote for that. I stand by.
Didn't vote, just for clarification, you did not vote to send an RFP out
to
for
go
design?
To go forward.
Okay.
I was more looking at the process of a private venture to see if there was any interest, because in my fundamental belief, that is the only way that this thing's going to work. And I've been wrong before, and I hope I'm wrong on this if it goes forward. Not necessarily believe I am, but that's my hope. I believe that if that thing's going to be successful, it needs to be a private enterprise. I need somebody that knows what they're doing, somebody that can bring people in and has the resources to make that happen. I'm just not convinced that that's the right thing for Mesquite right now, as far as is it going to generate the kind of businesses. St. George is in the process of doing a big something similar on a bigger magnitude, and
Right.
we're going to be competing against that. We compete right now with that situation with cooler weather, higher elevation facilities that are established. You know, we have the heat. I mean, 116 out there today. There's
Yeah.
things that we have to deal with reality, and we have to realize that can we truly compete and bring those kind of venues and that in. It's proven we can with the facilities we have. Maybe we need to look at and focus on those during the better weather times and see if we can bring more of those things in. But it still gets back to what I said earlier. The city and the government can do as much as they can. Those things are still intact. We still have all those facilities, but look where we are. It has to be the private sector, and that's why I'm a little concerned with the tent issue, is that, you know, we could potentially spend a lot of money and not see the benefit that we all hope we're going to receive.
Well, because one of the proposals early on with the city staff, at least, was that the remaining $2.5 million we have left in the redevelopment agency fund, the RDA fund, would all be used towards that.
I understand.
And that doesn't leave much for anything else.
So and that's one of the issues is, so we commit all the funds, put all our eggs in one basket. 2 months down the road, after we've committed them to go to this sports and events center, we have a viable person come in with a great idea that really wants to invest, and he's put a lot of his money in, and he's asking if we can kick in just a little bit. We don't have any money to help him. And it's not only that, there's been some things that were done that didn't pan out, that took a substantial amount of those funds that potentially we may not recover.
I believe that would be the Solstice RDA $2.5 million loan.
Correct.
Okay. Which, by the way, I keep asking about, and we don't hear anything back, so.
You hear what we hear.
Okay, we'll go with that one. I'll give you that one. So, what would you do with that $2.5 million if we weren't spending it on the proposed indoor sports/events complex? I have some more questions about that, by the way, but.
There's some things on the boulevard. I mean, whether you agree or disagree, Mesquite Boulevard is still the corridor for Mesquite when people come into town.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some things that we need to be more aggressive in talking to some of those business owners and maybe kind of revitalizing. It's not going to take a lot of money, but it's some simple little things that can help address some of the issues with some of those, you know, they're older businesses and help just the aesthetics of that. I think that's something we ought to look at.
Some people have said that the city should be more aggressive with those business owners in cleaning up the property, repainting it, redecorating it, if you will. What are your thoughts about the city's stance or the city's action towards those business owners along Mesquite Boulevard and Sandhill Boulevard?
Well, I'm going to tell you, for one example, I know this is fact, that there was a group that wanted to come in and open up Harley's as a garage, Harley's Garage.
Uh-huh.
And Harley's garage was there for a number of years as a garage. For some reason, who knows why, that wasn't allowed. I think that would have been a positive thing for the downtown area to let them come in, clean that up, show some activity, and let that business go forward. We've got to kind of look at those kind of issues instead of just, no, we can't have that, we can't do that. Let's help them overcome whatever issue, whether it's environmental or whatever. Let's see if we can't help them work through that and establish some of those things and get that cleaned up as far as and getting a business in there. But,
which do you think is better to use with, not on, I didn't think that, use with those businesses, the carrot or a stick?
well, my grandpa used to tell me that you catch more bees with honey than you do with the other thing. and I believe, you know what, we still have to remember that that's their property. They own it. You go in there with a stick and you know what, they might have a bigger stick. I think there's ways to do things and there's ways not to do things, and I think most of these people are willing to sit down and address those issues with us, and maybe we need to just be a little more diligent and explain some of the purposes, and I think that, and I've had some conversations with them, with some of them, and I think they're positive, but those things take time as well, but you know, I think anytime you try to go tell somebody that it's my way or the highway, that doesn't work.
Do you think that we should be spending more money, RDA funds, either the remaining bond money, which is 2.5 million, or the incremental tax RDA money? Do you think we should be spending more on those properties through the RDA? You know, because we had the 14 million or $15 million bond. We had $12.9 million left out of that, and that was supposed to be for Mesquite and Sand Hill Boulevard to clean those areas up, and not one dime has been spent on that. Hardly. There's been a few $10,000 here, $18,000 here, but certainly not to the magnitude that bond was originally issued for.
Right, but I think you're right. I think we could spend more money there. I don't think it's going to take a lot of money to do some of the things that people would like to see done on you know, beautifying some of those places. And we just need to, like I say, be more aggressive in talking to those people and say, hey, you know, here's some things through the RDA that we can do if you're willing to allow this to go forward. And we're not talking a lot of money. If you look at what you mentioned with some of the funds that we've spent, where we spent them, we spent a lot of RDA funds, and some of it we've got zero return, and we spent a lot of money on some things that I don't think the process was done right.
Okay. Do you want to name any of those?
Well, I'll give you an example, okay? You gave one earlier, 2.5. You want to know what's going on. We want to know what's going on.
With the solstice one.
Are we going to get that money back? You know, the library property, I don't see what benefit it is when you have a library to move it across the street onto a boulevard parcel. What difference that's going to make when you're talking, you already have an existing facility there. I think we should have questioned some of the pricing on that.
Mm-hmm.
Just some of the things, and you know, I'm not trying to second guess decisions that were made, but a lot of the investments that were made out of the RDA funds, there's not the return on the investment that I think that was the intent of true RDA, as opposed to some revitalization of downtown parcels and allowing businesses to go in some of those existing older businesses and revitalize and generate activity and revenue downtown.